Hi guys, this is Jiggy, a portrait and wedding photographer from the Philippines, and welcome to the channel. So in this video, I just want to talk about one particular setting that I put in my Sony camera that I can guarantee will make shooting with off-camera flash a lot easier. So for this particular video, I will be using my Sony a7R4 as my demo, but it should work with the R3, the R2, the a7 III, the a7 II, the a7S, and all other alpha cameras, including the a6000 series. Now, the thing that you have to consider when we're shooting with flash photography is that you are actually controlling two things. One is your ambient light and the other one is your flash exposure. Ambient light is easy to control. All you have to do is fix your aperture, shutter speed, and ISO, which is now made easier because of these mirrorless systems that use live view. But then that live view now becomes a hindrance whenever you're shooting with flash. Let me explain. So we're shooting with live view. Let's say, for example, now as you can see, I can put the settings of how I want it to be to give me the proper ambient exposure that I want. So if you're shooting in the studio, more often than not, you want all the light coming from your studio strobes. So you would set it so that you don't see any existing ambient light now, such as what I am doing. Now, this one becomes a problem with live view. As you can see, you basically can't see anything anymore. That's why I set as one of my custom functions in my camera the ability to just be able to turn off live view anytime with just one click of a button. Now, if we are using TTL triggers, I've turned it off again, live view is off, so now this is my actual exposure. If you're using TTL triggers such as the Sony WRC1M, if the moment you put it on the hot shoe, it is smart enough to be able to turn off live view automatically, right? But if you're using a standard trigger, such as this one, like the Photix Odin 2, even if I put it on my hot shoe, it won't do anything, and I have to manually turn off live view, such as this one. Now, this is basic. This is not what I was talking about. What I was talking about is when you take this entire system outside in the field, not necessarily in the studio. So when you're shooting outdoors, you're actually balancing ambient light and flash. So that's where it becomes a problem. Let's say, for example, you're outdoor and you want to be able to underexpose the scene, let's say by about a stop or two. So you fix your camera settings now, so to be able to control ambient light without your trigger yet. And then the moment you put your trigger, it automatically turns off live view, especially if you're using TTL. I'll explain how it works also with a non-TTL trigger later. So while you are shooting, you actually don't see your exposure anymore because your live view is automatically turned off by your TTL trigger. So before, in order for me to be able to see the exposure of my ambient light, I would either take out my trigger or turn off my trigger, which is what I'm doing. Every time I take off my trigger, it automatically turns on live view again, so I can see my ambient exposure. But look at this. I have one custom function button in the back of my camera that I set that the moment I press, boom, it shows you your actual exposure. I release it, all of a sudden it turns off live view. Turn it on, it shows you your actual exposure again. Now, you may say, why don't I just turn off live view on and off? It doesn't work. Look, I'll turn off live view display settings off, on. There is no difference. Your trigger is overwriting all those settings except for this particular option there. So now, when I am shooting outdoor, I could see the general scene brightly lit so that I can compose properly. With just a click of a button, I can see what my ambient light is doing, such as this one. Therefore, now I can put in my flash and then control my flash power to balance out the scene. But now, what if you are not using a TTL trigger? So let's say, for example, let's put this one, the Photix Odin Light, a non-TTL trigger. Live view now is turned on. So therefore, for you to be able to see what you're shooting, you're better off turning off live view, such as that. So if I turn off live view, it still works the same way. So if you're not using a TTL trigger, turn off live view. If you're using a TTL trigger, it doesn't really matter if live view is on or off, because it will automatically turn it off for you. That's why you have this button here that shows you my ambient exposure. So what is this? This is basically this one, your shot result preview. It's not even in your main menu. You need to access it using your custom function key for this option to come out. So I will teach you guys how to do that. First thing you do is you go to menu 2, submenu 9, custom key. From there, you can actually choose wherever you want to set it. If I don't have my cage, basically I would set it as custom 1 and custom 2. That's where I would be putting live view effects on. And in number 1, that's where I will be putting shot result preview. It's actually a very, very simple setting to put in your camera that will make your workflow so efficient. So again, let me run it by you again. This is not meant for studio shooters, because for studio shooters, all you have to do is turn off live view and you're good. This particular setting is actually very beneficial to people who like using off-camera flash outdoors and likes balancing ambient light and flash. So again, if you're using a TTL trigger, the moment you put it on your Sony camera, it will automatically turn off live view. But if you have your shot result preview set in any of your custom function buttons, with just a press of a button, you will be able to see what your ambient light is doing. Again, this is going to be so beneficial to all those flash photographers who want to be able to balance out their light. Now, if you're using a non-TTL trigger, when you put it on, all you have to do now is turn off live view so that you can see what you're shooting, and it works the same way. The moment you press that custom function button where you set the shot preview, you will be able to see what your ambient light is doing. So this one allows you to properly balance your ambient light and your flash. Okay, it's just very, very simple. It's just one particular setting in your Sony camera that's not even in your main menu, but I find it so useful whenever you're shooting with off-camera flash. But trust me, guys, when you're shooting out in the field, that simple technique of pressing one button for you to be able to see what your ambient light is doing is, for me, a game changer, really. It just made balancing ambient light and flash so much easier. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you did, please do subscribe to the channel. And while you're at it, click that notification bell so that you get notified every time I upload a new video. And I would very much appreciate it if you could actually like this video also and leave a comment below, maybe even just to say hi, or if you want some clarifications on the topic that we discussed here. It would really be very much appreciated. Okay, and one last thing, if you want to see more of my images, feel free to follow me on Instagram. It's at Jiggy Alejandrino. Okay, till the next video.